Hello there, Commonwealth from you. After covering the cut content of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, let's finally tackle the big transition Zelda title. From 2D to 3D, the one and only Ocarina of Time. Because, oh boy, there's a lot to cover. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. We're going for 2025 likes. Let's start with the big one. Dungeons. The heart and blood of every Zelda game until the open air. And when it comes to 3D dungeons, Ocarina of Time has probably the best pacing in the series, corresponding to the organic or simple ones as a child and the grandiose palace or castle-like structures as an adult. At the end of them all, we had a sage granting us a medallion as proof of conquering the temples. The only exception being Raru, who simply hands over his and then tells you to scram off and let someone else babysit the child in an adult's body. Jokes aside, the Light Temple of the Sage of Light, or what could have been the final dungeon before Ganon's castle, could have been spectacular. Acquiring the light arrows, I could offer far more gameplay possibilities of it, being a shocking twist, as how cool wouldn't it have been of having the Light Temple start right after Zelda was captured. One more climax before the last climb. Truly epic, and partly we did get a taste of what was cut in Ganon's castle. The section of light, which started with the use of the Golden Gauntlet, one that we gained after the Shadow section that was originally supposed to be after the Spirit Temple. That is right, the Light Temple was meant to be the final award, a dungeon where we likely would combine all our acquired weapons and skills. Truth to be told, Ganon's castle's light section is not exactly exciting, but the Light Temple, definitely. Just look at Majora's Stone Tower Temple, and especially after the light arrows to see what we could have had. Right here is the probably biggest potential of an Ocarina of Time 4K remake. Reimagining or after nearly 30 years realizing this lost potential and making Ocarina of Time truly complete. And make it far better than the Temple of Light we got in Twilight Princess. As that one had an awesome mini-boss, but the rest of that temple did not live up to the hype. Here is a chance to redeem the Light Temple once and for all. But a future remake could do far more than just a visible to everyone missing temple. We could also add the temples that were planned, including in the medallions of a fan and snowflake, but were then redone to give us second forest and water themed dungeons. No bad words about the forest temple, it is amazing, but a wind temple could also have been solid. The wind section in Ganon's castle is a clear taste of the wind temple and once again an example of what could have been. In fact, we don't have to just look at this section as the concept was realized 4 years later in the Wind Waker. Its wind temple might not be everyone's favorite, but there's potential to do it better in the ultimate version of the game where it was considered for. In Ocarina, naturally as a bonus temple, as none of us want to replace one of the best Zelda temples of all time. Same goes for the Ice Temple, which ended up as a mini dungeon but definitely had the potential to be a full-blown temple. You know, just like in A Link to the Past. In Majora's Mask, we naturally had Snowhead, and Twilight Princess gave us the equally brilliant Snow Peak ruins. Though from the brief ice section in Ganon's castle, or the Ice Cavern for that matter, I can only imagine how absolutely epic a Palace of Ice could have been in 3D. Think Sapphire Snow Festival, but on a much grander scale. That is what we could have had in 1998, and could still reclaim with a final Ocarina of Time 4K remake. The same project could also restore something that would have made the conclusion of these cut temples and all the other temples even more impactful and memorable. The medallions, granting abilities just like the medallions of A Link to the Past, or more precisely the powers passed by the champions and sages to Link in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, adding another layer of gameplay to already one of the best experiences of all time. Once again, we need this remake, Nintendo. With it, we could also have the 3 additional tunics to double the red, blue and green of the goddesses, that being white, yellow and black. These were cut due to lack of data but were planned to be added. It's just that their time never came as the 64DD never took off from Japan, hence killing the ultimate expanded Ocarina of Time, Ura Zelda. Next we have the cut jump button, finally realized in 3D Zelda in 2017, and yet another gameplay feature that could have debuted much sooner and can be redone in a remake to fit modern Zelda better. Auto jump was finally integrated to distinguish Zelda Ocarina of Time from Super Mario 64. But sometime in the 2020s, you know, after the full dual analog camera controls added to Majora 3D, this should no longer be an issue. And Super Mario 64 might also be why the Zelda team played with Ganon's castle being the hub world from which we would jump the dungeons through paintings. Luckily, it was dropped in favor of the full Hyrule. But one thing that maybe would have been useful would have been the grass whistle. Epona's song on the Ocarina is a classic, but this cut content would be more convenient, just as it was in Twilight Princess. Sword and Shield Horseback Combat debuted in 2006. Well, it was revealed in 2004. But series creator Shigeru Miyamoto already wanted it in Ocarina of Time. Instead, he had to settle for the first-person bow and arrow combat, which was limited to hunting Poes in Hyrule Field. Hence why he later insisted on it in his final Zelda project, Twilight Princess, which gave us one of the most epic mini-boss fights, versus King Bulblin, Round 1, with one of the best cutscenes of all time, the triumphant Link and Epona. We know full well what a final version of this game needs. Less empty Hyrule Field and proper horseback sword and shield combat. Speaking of cut sword content, the Sword Beam, a feature originating from The Legend of Zelda in 1986 and then present in the first 4 Zelda games. A feature that could make this masterpiece even more epic. We already have it sort of in Skyward Sword, and with the Master Sword at full health in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. In addition, a variation of it was also found in Majora's Mask Fierce Deity boss completion climax. In other words, we have laid the 3D precedent to return back to this feature, an idea on the Nintendo Switch too. In fact, a number of fans have already restored this feature, though not the way Nintendo would approve. Since we're on the topic of bosses, another cut feature was Boss Rush, which was restored for Ocarina of Time 3D, though it was a simplified one, as it didn't give us a mini-dungeon section leading up to the rematch, which was planned for the 64DD version. Cut content that was later adapted in the Wind Waker's Ganon's Tower. Yep, this should definitely also be found in a 4K remake of Ocarina. The development team that rest in peace Satoru Iwata interviewed, plus creator Shigeru Miyamoto, were also planning to expand for 8 heart pieces instead of 4 for a heart container, a fragmentation that was later seen, though on a smaller 5-piece scale in Twilight Princess. Needless to say, we could have had more, much more, as Ocarina has immense potential to grow with a remake, including with a more organic Hyrule. And originally, the Zelda team planned that real actions would also have consequences, like impact on the environment. A cut down sign or tree would not be restored next time you reloaded that area, and your footsteps would remain where they were. In other words, the damage dealt to Mother Nature would be permanent. If you cut down grass, it was gone in that area. But the same logic would also have applied to Link's habit of destroying pots, which would not respawn, and as a result not result in false hope of more rupees or hearts when finding new ones. Naturally, the N64 version could never handle this, and the 64DD version was never meant to be. Now then, let's go over to the cut content that most likely will not be restored. And at the top of that list, we find the physical Triforce seen at Nintendo Space World, which was cut for obvious story reasons. Still, at some point in the development, the plan was for Link to claim its complete form in the end. Personally, I believe this was a cut for the better, as Ganondorf claiming the Triforce of Power, while splitting the rest expanded the lore of The Legend of Zelda. More so, it gave us the perfect showdown of power, wisdom, and courage at the top of Ganon's castle, followed by the timeline split with proper consequences due to Ganondorf's Triforce of Power in the adult and child timeline branches. Triforce Percent restored it, but it was never found in the final version of the game, just a promotional concept for a very good reason. There's one thing that should never be brought back and remain the one thing that Link never claims: the complete Triforce. Then we have the Unicorn Fountain, which is less damaging to put back in. Unlike Ganondorf's or Ganon's Blood, the Islamic Fire Temple chanting, and the Crescent Moon Gerudo symbol, a Triforce that can never be restored, unless Nintendo wants a mature rating with real blood, and even more controversy. Content that was cut after the game was out and cannot be experienced through Nintendo Switch Online or the 3DS version. We should be glad that more wasn't cut, as Navi was almost on the chopping block according to Shigeru Miyamoto himself, or at least he considered limiting her role, making it less repetitive and annoying, which in turn could be a positive change. And it could be a very solid less is more example for a future remake. Speaking of the fairy companion, when she remained, the team even experimented in turning Link into the fairy to get around, like in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And even with the trimming we have now gone over, Ocarina of Time is still one of the best games of all time. Not only that, as we have also brought up throughout this video, some cut ideas were later integrated in Majora's Mask. So I guess the 25th anniversary Zelda game is next, and what we hope can become a series. I promise, if you like and make this video get at least 25,000 views, then we will tackle how time pressure limited the Ultimate Zelda sequel from reaching its full potential. So if you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Last but not least, a big thanks to all of you for watching to the end, and to all our great patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to Raw Producer, JC Funk, and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.